Please save me, take me with you. The alien girl begged the only human in the market. The cage was still swinging when I first saw her. It hung between two rusted support columns in the lower gallery of HFY station, and the chain holding it creaked every few seconds with the vibration of the station's old pressure systems. I was not supposed to stop. I had coolant cells under my arm, a thruster running hot back at my dock, and 11 things on my list that all needed doing before the next departure window opened. I stopped anyway. My name is Cal Merritt. I am 32 years old, a solo trader, licensed under the Sol Compact, and at that moment, I was the only human being within roughly 9 light-years in any direction. That fact was about to matter more than anything else on my list. The lower gallery was where the live cargo dealers worked. Every fringe station had a section like it. Dark, loud, smelling of recycled air, and something sharper underneath. I had learned to walk through fast and keep my eyes low, because there was nothing I could do for anyone in those cages, and looking too long only made the rest of the day harder. That was the rule I had given myself. It had worked for 3 years. It stopped working the moment I felt the pressure behind my eyes. It was not pain, it was warmth, focused and deliberate, like a finger pressing gently at the center of my forehead. I had never felt anything like it. I turned before I had decided to turn, and I found her already looking at me. She was young, her skin was deep blue-gray, and across her cheekbones and the backs of her hands, soft gold light moved in slow pulses, fading and brightening like something breathing. Her eyes were entirely black, wide, and fixed on me, with a precision that felt less like curiosity and more like recognition. Her fingers, wrapped around the electrostatic bars, were too long and too thin, and they were trembling. I knew the species from a single intelligence briefing I had skimmed 2 years ago. Velhari, empaths, native to the Car Belt, absorbed by the Tethan Dominion a generation back. Their entire neurology had evolved sideways into sensing and transmitting emotion, rather than anything useful for self-defense. The Dominion found them interesting for a while, then they found them sellable. Her mouth moved. No sound reached me over the market noise, but the warmth behind my eyes shifted into something I can only describe as a shape, a feeling that carried meaning, the way a word carries meaning, and I understood it without understanding how. She was saying, "You, please, you are not like the others, please." I looked away. I walked 4 steps. I stopped. There is something that happens in a human being when the mind finishes processing what the eyes have seen and delivers the full weight of it to whatever part of us makes decisions. It is not dramatic. It does not feel like courage. It feels like a door closing behind you, quiet and final, and the only movement left is forward. I turned around and walked back. The dealer was Tethan, compact and four-armed, with the flat expression of someone who had been selling living things long enough that the faces had all blurred together. He saw me looking and straightened up immediately. Humans were rare out here. Rare meant he could invent whatever price he wanted. Velhari empath, he said in trade common, his translation node buzzing at his collar. Certified genuine. Young, healthy, pre-bond. She will anchor to an owner within the first lunar cycle, and after that, she will be completely stable. What does stable mean? I asked. He adjusted his framing without missing a beat. Loyal, attuned. She will know your emotional state at all times and respond accordingly. Very useful for extended solo travel. I looked up at the cage. The gold light in her skin was cycling slow now, dim and long between pulses. I had read somewhere that Velhari bioluminescence tracked emotional state directly. Fast and bright meant distress. Slow and fading meant something worse. She was not shutting down in fear. She was shutting down in exhaustion. She had been hoping for a long time, and running out of the energy it took to keep doing it. What is her standard like? I asked. The dealer tilted his head. Basic phrases. She has been in compact adjacent holding for several weeks. Drop the dampener on the cage. He went still. Sir, standard protocol during viewing does not require... Drop it, I said, or I walk out of here and I tell every compact flagged vessel docked on this station that your electrostatic bars are running irregular dispersal patterns, which means your containment certification is invalid, which means every sale you have made in the last 60 days is legally contestable under Fringe Commerce Treaty 7. Was any of that true? I had no idea. I said it the way I say things I am completely certain of, which is a skill humans develop early and use constantly, and which most other species find deeply unnerving because they cannot read the difference. He stared at me for 4 seconds. Then he tapped his bracer, and the noise dampener around the cage went offline. Her voice was quiet, rough. The standard was broken at the edges, consonants borrowed from a mouth shaped for a different language, but it was clear enough. "Please," she said. She paused, and her grip on the bars tightened. The gold light in her skin flared, one sharp, bright pulse. "Save me. Take me with you." I heard it, every word, and underneath the words, that warmth behind my eyes surged once, hard and aching, and I felt what she was feeling. Not a translation of it. The actual thing. Fear that had been held so long it had gone quiet and cold, and underneath the fear, something smaller and more fragile. The very last thread of belief that someone, somewhere might still choose differently. She had felt every being in this market. Every buyer who had looked at her and calculated value. Every guard who had stopped noticing her. And then I had walked in, and she had felt something in me that was different enough to reach for, and she had aimed everything she had left at it. I turned to the dealer. "Full asking price, or do you want to negotiate?" He blinked. He had not expected that. They never expect a human to move that fast once the emotional component is engaged. They expect us to argue, delay, process, second guess. We do all of those things eventually. But when something clicks into place, we move, and we move like the decision was made an hour ago. We negotiated anyway, not because I wanted to, but because agreeing to full asking price for a living being in a slave market creates documentation I did not want following me. 40 minutes of back and forth. Witnesses pulled from neighboring stalls. A voided bond contract signed in front of 3 independent vendors who wanted no part of any legal dispute with a compact citizen. And a bill of sale that would hold up under scrutiny in any jurisdiction I was likely to pass through. I am not a lawyer, but I have spent 3 years alone in fringe space learning which paperwork can save you later, and I did every single piece of it correctly before I touched that cage. When the door opened, she did not rush out. She climbed down carefully, slowly, as if she was not sure the floor was real. She was shorter than I expected, and thinner. She stood at the bottom of the cage steps and looked at me, and for a moment, neither of us said anything. I took off my spare thermal jacket and held it out to her. She looked at it, then at me. Then she took it and pulled it around her shoulders, and the gold light across her skin moved in a single long wave, slow and warm. I started walking. After a moment, she followed. I did not look back at the dealer. There was nothing left to say to him, and I had learned a long time ago that the best thing a human can do after winning something in a place like that is leave without celebrating, because celebrating tells the room that you know you won, and knowing you won makes everyone who lost start calculating how to reverse it. We walked out of the lower gallery, and I did not slow down until we were 2 levels up and 50 meters from the nearest security checkpoint. Then I stopped at a supply kiosk, bought 2 ration bars and a sealed water pack, and handed one of each to her. She took the food the way someone takes it when they have not had any in long enough, that they are not sure how to show gratitude for it without coming apart entirely. She ate carefully, deliberately, and she watched me while she did it. Her name, when she said it, was a sound my mouth was not built to make accurately. The closest I could get was something like Sayel. She accepted that without complaint. "Where are you from?" I asked. She was quiet for a moment. "Gone," she said. I did not push it. "Do you know how to use a navigation console?" I asked. "Basic systems, environmental controls?" She shook her head slowly. "Do you want to learn?" She looked at me for a long time. The gold light moved across her collarbone, quick and uneven. "Why?" "Because my ship has a co-pilot seat that has been empty for 3 years," I said, "and it would be useful to have someone in it." That was not the whole truth. The whole truth was messier and harder to say out loud. The whole truth was that I had walked past too many cages in too many markets, and each one left a small weight behind, and somewhere between the 4th step and the stop I had learned that I could not carry another one. But that was not the kind of thing you say to someone who has just spent weeks in a suspension cage. You say the practical thing. You give them something forward-looking and functional to hold on to. She nodded, once. Small and careful, like she was not sure yet if nods meant the same thing to me. They did. We had 11 minutes before the Tethan dealer's complaint reached station security. I know this because I had timed the walk from the lower gallery to my dock during 3 previous visits, and I had estimated his processing speed based on how he had fumbled with the witness documentation. 11 minutes was enough. My ship was a mid-range compact hauler called the Ardent, 14 years old and showing every one of them. But the hull seals were tight and the jump drive was reliable, and I had spent most of my profit for the last 2 years making sure those 2 things stayed true. I got Sael strapped into the co-pilot seat, ran the pre-jump sequence in 4 minutes flat, and was cleared through the outer ring docking release with 90 seconds to spare. The station fell behind us. Its signal traffic spiked once, briefly, a broadcast on the security frequency that I did not answer. Then the jump drive engaged, and the stars went long and white and swallowed everything. Sael did not say anything for a long time. She sat in the co-pilot seat and watched the jump corridor stream past the viewport with an expression I could not read, and the gold light in her skin moved quietly, steadily, without urgency. I was running calculations on the navigation board when she spoke. "You felt what I sent," she said. It was not quite a question. "Yes," I said. "Most species do not," she said. "The Tethan cannot. The Gorathi cannot. Others can feel fragments, impressions, but nothing clear. Humans are strange," I said. She considered this. The research file they kept on me said humans were emotionally volatile, unpredictable, difficult to manage in group settings. "That tracks," I said. It also said humans form attachments rapidly and irrationally, and then defend those attachments past the point of logical cost-benefit analysis. I looked at her. She was watching me steadily, those black eyes calm and very serious. "Is that what happened?" she asked. I thought about it honestly. "Partially," I said. "But you aimed at me for a reason. You felt something in me that you thought would move. You were right. That is not irrational on either side. That is 2 people reading a situation correctly and acting on it." She was quiet again. Then the gold light across her hands brightened slowly, and I felt, faintly, at the edge of my perception, something that was not quite a word. It was a feeling. Careful, tentative. Like a door opening just slightly, checking the temperature of the room on the other side. Relief. Real relief. Not the relief of immediate danger ending, but the deeper kind. The kind that comes when something you were afraid to believe turns out to be true anyway. I turned back to the navigation board. "There is a compact way station 6 jumps from here," I said. "Neutral ground, independent jurisdiction, good docking facilities. We can file your status documentation there. The voided bond contract means you have no legal owner of record. We can get you provisional compact protection, which is not much, but it is enough to make you officially someone's problem to protect, rather than someone's property to reclaim." "Will they try to reclaim me?" she asked. "The dealer might," I said. "But he made a clean sale and voided the bond on record in front of witnesses. Legally, he has nothing to stand on. The Tethan dominion is a different question." She did not react visibly to that, but the warmth behind my eyes went briefly cold and then steadied itself. She was afraid of that answer, and was choosing not to show it. I respected that. "The Dominion has long reach," she said. "So does the Sol Compact when it chooses to use it," I said. "And humans are very good at choosing to use it when someone we have decided to protect is threatened." "You have decided to protect me?" "I bought your freedom, filed 3 forms of legal documentation, burned a departure window, and jumped into open space on 11 minutes' notice," I said. "Yes, I have decided." She looked at the viewport for a moment. Then she looked back at me. "I can feel what others feel," she said. "I have felt it my whole life. Every creature I have ever been near. Their fear, their hunger, their boredom, their cruelty." She paused. "Yours is the first I have ever felt that moved toward me instead of at me." I did not have an answer for that. I am not sure there is one. I just let it sit in the air between us and kept flying. The 6th jump brought us into the outer edge of the Perrin way station's sensor range. and I ran a full scan before dropping out of corridor speed. Clean, no pursuit signatures, no Tethan registry flags on any vessel within range. Either the dealer had cut his losses, or the Dominion had not yet connected the dots between one missing Velhari and one human trader's departure log. Either way, I filed the documentation at Perrin in person, standing at the counter of the compact registry office with Sael beside me, while a board clerk processed provisional protected status paperwork for a species he had never heard of. The clerk asked me 3 times if I was certain about the sponsorship declaration, because it carried legal weight, and the fees for false filings were significant. I am certain, I said each time. When it was done, Sael had a registration number, a provisional status certificate, and a compact issue identity marker, keyed to the Ardent's vessel registry. On paper, she was under my vessel's protection, which was not much by galactic standards, but it meant that any move against her was also a move against a compact registered hauler and its licensed operator, and that created paperwork and scrutiny that most opportunistic actors preferred to avoid. We ate a real meal in the way station's public commissary, hot food, not rations. She tried several things she had never tasted before, and made no comment on any of them, except to eat each one completely. I watched her start to settle. Not relax, exactly, settle. Like something inside her had been braced for impact for so long that it was only now beginning to believe the impact was not coming. On the walk back to the dock, she stopped at a viewport overlooking the station's outer ring, where a dozen vessels of different classes sat in their berths, and the stars beyond them were thick and still. "Cal," she said. It was the first time she had used my name. I stopped beside her. "Thank you," she said. "You already said that," I said. "Back at Keth Varal, before we jumped. You said it when I handed you the jacket." "I know," she said. "I am saying it again because the first time I said it, I was still afraid it was not real." She looked at me. The gold light moved across her cheekbones in a long, quiet wave. "Now I believe it." I nodded. "Can I ask you something?" She said. "Yes." "When you stopped," she said. "When you turned back, what made you do it?" I had been thinking about that question since Keth Varal. I had a few answers that were true in pieces. The warmth behind my eyes that she had sent. The slow pulse of fading light in her skin. The fact that I had walked past too many cages. All of it was true, and none of it was the whole thing. "You reached for the one person in the room who might actually reach back," I said. "And I was that person. So I did." She was quiet for a moment. "Is that a human thing?" she asked. "Yes," I said. "It is a very human thing." She turned back to the viewport and looked at the stars, and the gold light across her skin was steady and warm, and that was the last word either of us said for a long time. We left Perrin Way Station the next morning, on a heading for the compact's inner lanes, and Sael sat in the co-pilot seat without being invited, which told me everything I needed to know about where we were going from here. I showed her the navigation console. She learned the basics in 40 minutes. By the end of the first transit, she was tracking our speed and heading without prompting. The stars stretched ahead of us, wide and unfinished. We had a lot of them to cross.